These weekends sure go by fast, and here we are back on this Sunday night, the 25th of February. There's 4 days left to this month, and we've got some interesting weather coming up for this week with all the storminess out in the west as far as snow is concerned. But we've got a big warm up over the eastern half of the United States. We've got some severe weather risk, and we'll probably have some wind and rain to deal with along the way. So we will discuss that in intricate detail tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. Tempest is an affiliate of the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And if you do decide to purchase anything, be it the weather station or any of the other wonderful gadgets and gizmos that they have on the Tempest website, including smart weather fashion, use the coupon code WINTER2324, which is almost over. And if you do, you'll get
10% off. And yes, indeed, officially, in the meteorological sense, winter will be over after Thursday. Meteorological winter, that is. And
the three coldest months of the year will be done.
Yeah, indeed.
Such as they were.
Yes. If you want to call that cold.
Yes. Well, yeah, you can call it a lot of things. I don't know if you want to call it that, except for maybe a couple of short periods here and there. Speaking of which, 20 here this morning. We had the cold front come through here yesterday, so the big wind yesterday evening dropped to 20 this morning, and by this afternoon, 62.
Well, it got to 15 degrees this morning here, one of the colder mornings. The coldest morning we had so far here at the home base in Putnam Valley this winter was 10, and I can assure you, looking back only a few years ago, we were talking about temperatures of like 5 below zero. I don't know if we'll ever see that again, but 15 this morning, and I'm not sure how high it got. I think temperatures maybe got close to 40 this afternoon. Lots of blue sky, and you're right, Joe, a big jump in the temperature coming our way over these next few days coming up.
Although the warmest air is probably not going to be over you.
I agree. Hey, look, Chicago, for example, is forecasting temperatures close to 70 degrees in the next day or two, and no way in the world I'm going to get near 70. I'll be happy if I can make it to the upper 50s to near 60.
Right, and the big problem now, of course, this time of year and going forward is going to be any kind of wind off the ocean, particularly a south wind, which we're going to probably see on Tuesday. So it's going to be one of these deals where if you're west and southwest of New York City, away from the ocean, yeah, those areas will probably get into the 60s. Unless I was thinking maybe during the day on this coming Wednesday, if this rain, we get some rain Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. I don't know how widespread it's going to be, but if that goes out, then there's a bit of a break between that and the rain from the cold front where you can get the sun to come out. Maybe somebody south and west of New York City to Philadelphia and point southward could get to 70. But I agree with you. This is going to be a tough sell because of clouds, because of wind direction. But if you're in southern Ohio, if you're in Kentucky, if you're in Tennessee, you're going to see 80s probably before this gets wiped out later this week.
And the predictability or the potential, I'm always getting these confused now. The potential
is too low means the potential's too low. Predictability is too low means that, well, we think there might be something, but we're not quite sure where and when yet, and to what magnitude.
I think if what you say is true, and if we do get a bit of sunshine to somehow break through during the middle or latter part of the day on Wednesday before the cold front arrives, when the front arrives, I think it could be enough to generate perhaps some thunderstorm activity. Nothing severe, but there could be some rumbles of thunder. That cold front's going to really whip on through here, I think, come Wednesday evening. And who knows, it may whip through so quickly that enough cold air will rapidly move in behind it, and we may see showers change to, wet snow. Won't accumulate to any degree, but it'll be interesting to see how quickly The temperatures go down behind it. Temperatures will be well up in the 50s on Wednesday. We may only be near 40 for a high, despite bright sunshine and a gusty, blustery wind, I think, behind that front, setting the stage for Thursday.
Do we think possibly wind advisory criteria or just shy of it?
Maybe just shy, I think. I don't think we're going to see any, real long-term sustained winds, but it's not going to be anything to sneeze at. Sustained winds, maybe 25 to 30, some gusts too, or maybe above 40. That certainly is in the cards for late Wednesday into Thursday. So it's going to be windy. It's going to turn, as you said, milder, much milder, in fact, in the coming days ahead, and then sharply colder, and all kinds of stuff. Showers, maybe a thunderstorm, or a switch back briefly to snow. So we have an active and interesting week ahead of us here in the tri-state metropolitan area.
Adam Lowe, if what you say is true, I will take the other side of that trade.
What did Adam Lowe say? I didn't see this on the chat board.
I think you need to read it. I don't want to read it out loud.
Oh, okay.
It names someone by name, has already thrown in the towel for next winter, saying next winter will be a death knell for snow lovers in the East with a super La Nina. I will gladly take the other side of that trade.
Well, for those
since I'm not
going to mention any names.
Right. No, but this is where, year after year after year, we hear one side. Okay. And now even the snow bulls are throwing in the towel. So I will take the other side of that trade and just leave it at that. Just remember this a year from now. Let's see who comes out ahead.
You say, ask this particular person. This particular person, if I'm not mistaken, on more than one occasion was calling for frigid Arctic outbreak, saying winter is going to, be well in evidence here in February or on into March. And now all of a sudden, we're hearing that he's throwing in the towel for next winter.
I think if you're a snow weenie, you should be jumping up and down. I really do. Well, you should be jumping up and down.
We had growing up in the 60s and 70s, we had a meteorologist here in New York, Gordon Barnes, who loved to make similar long-range predictions about potential spells of very cold weather and snowy weather, whatever. And he would sit there at the beginning of the month and give you his whole list for the upcoming month of storms coming our way. And I asked Alan Casper when we had him what he thought, because he worked with Gordon, and Alan said straight out, he says he thought that was a lot of nonsense. And really, it's as you know, Joe, as an operational forecaster, sometimes it's hard enough to predict what's going to happen 2 days from now as opposed to 2 months from now. So take it as it is, as whatever comes, and you can make suppositions, you can make allusions to what might happen in the coming days or whatever, or even the coming weeks. I said on our Alan Casper show that I thought we'd have one more shot of cold and possibly snow before the winter season is over. I'll hold to that, but I'm not even making any predictions about the summer or next winter, for God's sake. We'll just take it by ear and see what happens.
Well, I've always said, if you're gonna have fun with this, there's no fun in throwing in the towel in November. So you just sort of wait and hope. I don't disagree with you. I every day when I look, as I look through models from run to run, I've been looking for that. Okay, can a small window of opportunity open up somewhere? And every time there's a subtle hint on any particular model run, it's gone on the next one. So, we continue to see a whole bunch of things where the models have been doing this for months. Let's split the polar vortex in two. Guess what? It never happens. I noticed over the last 3 or 4 days on various runs, there were some very aggressive polar vortex splits in the stratosphere, and then they disappear. So that's out. And all these other things that we've seen hints of on the models, only for them to just disappear. So yeah, could a small window open up? Yes, I think it's possible. If one doesn't open up, would I be surprised? No, I would not be surprised. Particularly, Joe, with what's going on in the next 2 weeks, where everything is in the West. Everything is in the
Yes,
West.
yes, absolutely. And you've added an interesting dichotomy. If you want cold weather, if you want a chance for some significant snowfall, go west, young man or young lady. Here in the east, in fact, even in the Midwest, it looks like it's going to be anything but. Can I possibly use the term April? It's that because that's pretty much what it's going to feel like, at least for these final days of this month of February, continuing on into the early part of March.
You could do that if you'd like.
Yes,
Okay, let's take a look at the watches and warnings because we have a ton of them, except they're all out in the western part of the United States. There's going to be some well, already are. There's already been big snow amounts in uh, in the Sierra Nevadas and the Cascades. Actually, the Sierra Nevadas are getting a break for the first part of this week because they're going to probably get hammered late this week and this weekend, this coming weekend. But we've got a whole slew of winter storm warnings up and down the Cascades. Also, central and northern Idaho. I was reading some of the worded forecasts there. They're generally going for 10 to 20 inches in elevated areas and up to 4 inches in the valleys. You've got a slew of winter storm warnings in western Montana, western Wyoming, the western half of Colorado, central Utah from north to south, northeast Nevada. Your winter weather advisories surrounding those, and lots of wind advisories and high wind. The gold, I think, is. Let me just make sure. No, the gold that's on the screen, most of the gold, because there's two different shades. The darker shade, like what you see in northwest Texas and southeast New Mexico, those are high wind watches. The lighter shade are high wind warnings, and you've got those in northern New Mexico, northeast New Mexico, southeast Colorado, southeast Wyoming, western Montana, parts of northern Nevada, for wind gusts of 50, 60, and 70 miles an hour. Typical stuff that they get out there in the mountains. And meanwhile, in the east, it's quiet. You've got four, five, six, seven counties, four on the North Dakota side and three on the Minnesota side that have winter storm watches up. So there's that. Okay, so let's look at our surface map. And this cold shot was fast. I mean, it really just came in and came out. And now that it's moving out so quickly, there's really nothing to stop the buildup of warm air that occurred today already in the plains. I mean, just looking at these 4 o'clock temperatures in Oklahoma, in Arkansas, 70s to around 80, mid to upper 70s across Mississippi, middle 70s across Kansas and Missouri, 60s into Illinois, 50s already into Indiana and Ohio, and that's all on its way.
indeed. And the pattern is one where I mean, indeed, we had the cold weather this morning, and you could before you have a chance to blink your eyes. I mean, from the 15 degrees I have here this morning, by tomorrow afternoon, probably be up somewhere in the mid 50s, which is very nice. Nice recovery. Stays mild right on through Wednesday. Then it turns cold behind that cold front, that very sharp cold front for Thursday. But then no sooner does it happen, Friday and into the upcoming weekend, we start warming up once again. So the ratio seems to be, Joe, and that seems to be the case for this entire winter season. Is the ratio seems to be like 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. We have one really nice cold day for the winter weather lovers and possibly snowy, compared to 3 mild or warmer days. That seems to be the story for this entire winter. It has not been uniformly warm throughout. We've had our shots of cold weather, but they've been oh so brief.
Yep. In the West, by the way, I know Dennis Cassia, thank you. I must have sat back away from my microphone, so I will pay attention and keep myself close to it. so that the audio doesn't go way down and then shoot way back up. Um, in the West, we've got the energy that's coming in that's going to make for you know, a rather interesting looking storm system from the setup of how these next two lows that are coming eastward, because they're going to cover about two-thirds of the country as we move into Monday and Tuesday. I mean, this system is this complex system is going to have a pretty big impact on the weather. Meanwhile, on the satellite tonight, take a look at the satellite loop. It's pretty quiet, nice and clear. Um, Up and down the East Coast, just some patchy high clouds in western New York and western Pennsylvania. Little patchy cloudiness moving through the Appalachians, and we've got some high clouds streaming up through the northern plains. Some Pacific moisture starting to come in again, that subtropical jet rearing its ugly head as it's done many times this winter. And we've got the energy that's coming into the Pacific Northwest. That's one thing that's going on this week, Joe, is a little different. In this El Nino pattern, this week looks more like a La Nina than an El Nino in terms of the action shifting to the northwestern part of the U.S. rather than being into California and into the Southwest.
And Joe, it seems like the final day of the month, which this year, because it's a leap year this year, the 29th of February, that's going to be the cold shot for this week, will be Thursday. And then, we'll already start climbing again temperature wise as we move into March. This year, March looks like it's going to be coming in like the proverbial lamb, not lion. And it doesn't look like the weather pattern all that bad for Friday and into next week. And I saw on the chat board somebody, I forgot who, I apologize for it, but apparently there's a St. Patrick's Day parade coming up. Isn't that kind of early, though, for this upcoming weekend? Well, if there is a parade for St. Patrick's Day, 3 weeks in advance, don't worry. The weather looks like it'll be just fine for any parading Friday and Saturday of this next weekend.
There's some snow showers up the St. Lawrence Valley. That warmer air coming in is creating some snow showers there. And looks like we have them also sitting over Lake Erie and into Lake Ontario. Those are going to go way by to our north. Uh, there was some of the models actually have a little bit of a clip of moisture that moves through southern New England late tonight and tomorrow morning that extends southward from the stuff to the north. I wouldn't I wouldn't get too overly excited about that. And in the meantime, you're looking at snow and rain coming into the northwest and moving across Idaho, northern Idaho, and into Montana. Some stray showers in southern Kentucky and into southeastern Virginia from a little disturbance there that we saw on the satellite, those clouds that were there in the central Appalachians. But that's moving along. Again, a lot of this is in response to that warmer air starting to move on in. The Storm Prediction Center, I just jumped right to day 3 because there's nothing for the next 2 days. But day 3, which is Tuesday into Wednesday, they have a marginal to slight risk from eastern Oklahoma and northern Arkansas, northeast to the lower Great Lakes, and that includes Chicago and in a slight risk for severe weather, Indianapolis in a slight risk, St. Louis in a slight risk. And I'm thinking that there might even be some elevated tornado risk. We'll see what they do with this tomorrow when it becomes their day 2 forecast. I wasn't really overly concerned about convection here with this when this front reaches the East Coast. I thought maybe okay, Wednesday night maybe there's a rumble or two of thunder, but I'm not thinking it's going to be anything crazy.
Yeah, that's like I said. If everything fell into place, and especially if we did get some sunshine breaking through and really warming things up on Wednesday afternoon, I mentioned in my Facebook forecast for Wednesday night some rumbles of thunder, but I don't really think that we'll have anything to worry about in terms of severe weather. Of course, now that I've said that, watch out for SPC to maybe put up a watch box, if not over the tri-state area, but maybe over western Jersey or eastern Pennsylvania later Wednesday or Wednesday night. We'll see. We still have a couple of days before we have to deal with it head on, but there is that potential for later Wednesday and Wednesday night with that sharp cold front.
There is probably going to be potential for watch boxes in the Midwest in that slight risk area, I would think.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Brandon Grablichoff's commentary. Next poll: which chief meteorologist gets on next on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Mr. G, excuse me, Janice,
You got that
Janice,
same you got that same phlegm in your throat that I do.
yeah, Janice Hoff, Lonnie Quinn, Nick Gregory. I will point out that I did extend an invitation to Nick. He watched the show with Alan Casper on tape the other night, and
Concluded that it was safe. It was a safe space.
so maybe, just maybe, we can get Nick on. I worked for many years with Dave Curran. That's a possibility. Second poll: who wins award, Reuben Fairchild or Tom Contino?
Well, it might, it may go to both of them if they're not careful. WPC's precip forecast. Look at the West. I love when they do this into the West. It's just like, okay, let's get out the orange and just, show an area of 5 to 10 inches of rain for the next 7 days from just north of San Francisco all the way up the coast to Vancouver Island. And I mean that orange, there's some areas there of 10 inches plus. Those small little yellow dots you see in Southwest Oregon, Northwest California, of 10 inches plus over the next 7 days. Also, notice very heavy precip of 5 to 10 inches in the Sierra Nevadas. And again, the snow for them is going to come late this week, not in the first half. We do also have in the central and northern Idaho, and we're talking here, 2 to 3 inches or 4 inches plus of melted precip in the next 7 days. So they're going to get, they're going to measure it in feet up there. This is going to be a pretty, this is a long duration type event for them because this is a series of systems coming into the Northwest.
And indeed, the West is going to be getting clobbered with its fair share of rain and snow. What else is new? Another, may I use the term, atmospheric river? I know you just love that term, Joe. And
Yeah.
in the nation's midsection, that seems to be the dry spot for this next upcoming 7 day period, with places in South Dakota and Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas bone dry, while places out west and places out east getting hit with its fair share of precipitation.
Well, Jason Fox, that's feet of rain at the coast, but the mountains are going to get feet of snow. Okay. The not the coast. The coast is pretty much all rain. But those mountains up there are going to get clobbered, particularly in Idaho, and up in the eventually in the Sierra Nevadas in California. It doesn't look like they're giving much precip to the north, the east. It's mostly a half to 3/4 of an inch. It's nothing problematic. Heavy, actually, it's even less from Virginia down into Georgia. You just got some areas that only get about a quarter to a half. So this system from the two shots of rain that are coming are not going to, when you add them together, we're talking about half to 3/4 of an inch or less. So it really doesn't look like this is not going to be a big rain event for the East Coast.
No, it's not. I mean, the cold front will probably deliver a spurt, if I may use that term, a spurt of some heavy shower activity, and again, maybe a rumble of thunder Wednesday night. But it's not going to last very long. It'll be in, it'll be out, and it may actually, end if the temperatures fall sharply enough as a little wet snow, especially well north and west of New York City. But it's nothing to compare with what they're going to be seeing out west. By the way, Brandon Grablichoff, Joe points out that we had in the tri-state area are shots of significant snow on January 15th and 19th and February 13th and 17th. There's only a 2-day difference between each month. So maybe, just maybe, if you want, you may want to put a little money down if you care to. Maybe our next shots of snow in March might be on the 11th and the 15th, if you go by that, trend. I'm not know if it'll work, but I can assure you of this. I don't think we're going to see much of a chance of any kind of frozen significant precipitation here until maybe sometime during the second week of March. So it may very well be that we'll have to wait until March 11th or March 15th for our next and maybe final chance for seeing some wintry type precipitation.
Here's WPC's opinions about the probability for at least 2 inches in the next 72 hours. And you can see how busy it is in the West with areas in the Cascades of 100% probability, central and northern Idaho, western Montana, western Wyoming, central Utah, and western Colorado. The Sierra Nevada is a bit less. I'll put up the probability for at least 12. And again, it's mostly up the Cascades and central and northern Idaho, where you have a fair amount of geography showing at least a 50% probability of at least 12 out of this. And if you look at the long range out in the west, which I thought was kind of interesting today, this is this is day 4. So this is going to be this is Thursday into Friday in the west. So this is the probability for let's just make it as simple. It's at least the probability for at least 3. Okay. So they've already got areas of 90% or higher in the Cascades and 70% or higher in the Sierra Nevadas and 90% or higher in parts of Idaho. Oh, look, the map just changed. Which one? Maybe that was for Friday. I'm sorry. That's Thursday into Friday. Wednesday into Thursday is not so much because you're sort of in between systems, but it's still primarily in Washington State and Idaho. This is Thursday into Friday. Here's Friday into Saturday. I mean, it just goes on, and now this is where uh, California gets nailed. Friday into Saturday with heavy snows coming further south, and then Saturday into Sunday, they're still going on in California, and still also going on, by the way, in Nevada, Utah, western Wyoming, eastern Idaho, and into western Montana. So again, it's all in the west. The east is not even worth looking at. So we'll just move this along and just take a look at. Let's just look real quick at the upper air, Joe, because I just find this. You know, it, it's amazing to me how oftentimes when you get into a pattern over the long term, even when those patterns take temporary breaks, they always want to go back to the original pattern. And we noticed this back in December, this troughing from Alaska down the west coast. And yeah, there it is again. I mean, this is for this week, and you see it here. One trough is already dropping into the northwest, and that's swinging eastward. So that's the one that's coming here for the middle part of the week that we're going to get a quick shot of cold air from. But right behind it is another trough that drops right down from Alaska down the west coast. This one goes further south. A lot of that energy gets down into northern California. So this next one goes further south. While that's happening, of course, the first trough is lifting out, and guess what? Another ridge was sort of in another, not quite a ridge position, but in a warm west-southwest flow going into next weekend. And then it really does become a ridge position late next weekend and early next week as a deep trough goes in the west. Then, that goes out. Another one drops in behind it. You see it there, and you still have all this troughing. It's all out in the west. There's no, I mean, there's nothing here on any of the runs today. Of course, the 18Z run always wants to do something toward the end of the period. It's got a big upper low off in the Gulf of Maine with blocking up in Greenland into the Davis Strait, with a different looking pattern. The point is that it until we see a definite obvious sign that this pattern breaks down, it's just more of the same. And there's really nothing here to give you any kind of hope to at least, let's say, through March 10th. Okay. It just doesn't seem like there's any hope here, at least through March 10th.
Right. Well, as I said just a couple of minutes ago, if there is going to be any kind of winter return or any kind of pattern that suggests colder and maybe snowier conditions, it will not come much before the 11th of March. And you've just verified that with your own discussion. Matt Coletta asking or saying that I was concerned about water temperatures. What about the dust to kill any hurricanes? Matt, to tell you quite frankly, I mean, last year the water temperatures were so very warm in spite of a El Nino, which presumably diminishes tropical cyclone activity. And you saw we had more than just a few tropical cyclones. So now with a La Nina pattern shaping up for the summertime and those warm water temperatures persisting, we could have yet, and probably we'll have another very active season for hurricanes. May as we've seen in recent years, it may start off slowly, but once we get into the meat of the hurricane season, which is anytime after mid-August, I think you're going to see quite a bit of activity. And yeah, recent years, Joe, and we've noticed this. It's not been so much Florida or someplace along the southeastern states. In recent years, the places that have been getting hit a lot with tropical activity has been Atlantic Canada and
Yes.
Maine. That has been the epicenter of the bullseye, it would seem, in the last few summers. And who's to say if we have another active year for hurricanes and tropical systems that once again, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, part of Maine, and on up into Newfoundland may be in the middle of the bullseye once again.
You could very well be. We'll leave that to chance down the road, see how it sets up. Meanwhile, you've got the storminess in the northwest, and you see the low that comes out of this rushes into Minnesota by Tuesday with some snow in the Dakotas. That low uh, gets over into Michigan. Now, this brings some rain Thursday night into Wednesday morning in some places. And then, also the other thing is that the gradient really starts to tighten later Tuesday night and particularly Wednesday into Wednesday night. Now we've got the second low that's coming east, and that brings the cold front through here Wednesday night. Now I know the GFS is for the last several days has been showing this area of blue snow on the west side of the frontal passage, uh, even down into the central Appalachians. Could there be a change to wet snow before it ends for 5 minutes? Yeah, I think it's
Yes.
possible. Is it going to mean anything in terms of anything significant? No.
No.
And then thank you. And then you get your cold shot, and then look at what happens in the west. As we said, another system drops down. This one's further south. You see that big area of dark blue snow runs down into California and sets up in the Sierra Nevadas. I mean, that blue is so blue, Joe, it's almost black in that region.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I still have the snow map up. I had a snow map up earlier. This only goes out 72 hours. Actually, this is the this was the digital wind forecast. This is for Wednesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And the digital forecast is actually showing, if there's one place that there might be advisories for, maybe coastal Maine down into southeastern New England and possibly to eastern Long Island, where gusts of 40 to 50 are being indicated here. But we'll deal with that over the next couple of days. But uh, the snow accumulation forecast. Actually, you know which one I should get? Let's see. Is this it? Yeah, this is pivotal. All right, so let's go. I'm going to go to the GFS and let's look at, let's go to the west. Let's see, which west map should we look at? So let's look at this one. All right, so we'll look at this. It takes us halfway down through California, and then I'll switch it. And we'll put the winter weather. Let's do the total snowfall. Really make this is over the next 16 days, Joe, in the West. Look
Okay.
at look at these crazy amounts in the Cascades. Oh, look at this. 100 I don't know where this is. 40 wherever 40.95 north and 121.6 west is, 103 inches. 103. All down the Cascades, Joe. Double and I mean high double. We're talking 60 inches or more over the next 16 days. And in some cases, there's a 120, 120 inches. That's 10 feet. Let me see if I can get that 120. There it is. This is at 44.56 and 122.10 west. And big amounts down in the Sierra Nevadas is a 127. 127 inches of snow being forecast by the models in the west over the next 16 days. And I will say this, unlike the snow maps when they're in the east, I will bet you money that the snow maps on the west will verify.
Well, you can't beat high altitude. The Cascades, and also up in Idaho and parts of Montana, altitudes are in excess of like 5,000 up to 10,000 feet. So you're dealing with places that are always get a tremendous amount of snow, and if you continue to have all that moisture pouring in from the Pacific, you're going to get a lot of snow. What else can I tell you?
Yep. So we're back full screen. And by the way, I assume my audio is fine because after that initial thing that Dennis pointed out, no one else has said anything. So I'm assuming my audio sounds good. Um, so uh, anything exciting going on with
No, no,
you?
no. It's
Oh,
nothing really. I gave a talk at Rockland Community College to a rather large crowd on Friday night, and it went over very very well. Lots of excitement. I will also point out to you, Joe, that there was not one, not two, but three different cameras that videoed my talk, and you had asked about, you know, getting one of my clips talks on tape, and possibly we could show it to our group here. So as soon as that video is completed, it's going to take about a week for them to edit it all together. Um, I'll pass it on to you, and we'll see what you want to do with it. And I can tell you, here's something interesting. And this was an email that I received on Saturday, that parts of Texas are already declaring April 8th, the day of the eclipse. They're placing those regions in and near the totality path under a state of emergency. They are warning people who are
what?
planning to go to Texas that if you are planning to drive into Texas, that you had better gas up, that you better be prepared for some incredible traffic jams, and it's going to be the equivalent, I guess, of what happens during a major weather emergency, because they're just expecting a tremendous number of people coming in for the solar eclipse in April, and it may very well happen across the other 14 states, including right here in New York State, where it will be visible across western and upstate New York. So uh, this is going to be a pretty big thing coming, that solar eclipse. It's only 43 days away, and we'll be talking more and more about that, and also talking about the weather prospects as we get closer to that upcoming. Anybody out there? You talk about this one guy who's making predictions about next winter. Are there any long range forecasters who would dare to stick out their neck and make a prediction on the weather for the day of the eclipse? I'd be interested in hearing about that if anybody cares to do something like that.
I'm outside the totality, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm not
But
far from it.
but you should. Well, actually, the nearest state to you would be, I think. I think it brushes. Let's see, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas. You'd probably be closest to the Arkansas part of the eclipse track. I
Oh,
mean,
okay, so it's not that close. No, I was just thinking if we ever if there was one that came over here, you could come down here and broadcast from, you know, up at Brasstown Bald at 5,000 feet. You have the view of four states. Of
yeah.
course, it would assume you'd have a nice weather day, which is not always a guarantee. But anyway, it's yeah, I'm too far east.
Well, I on the actual day of the eclipse, wherever I happen to be, I'm hopefully going to be able to hit the internet and at least use my phone, and maybe do some kind of a remote uh, televised version of what's happening. I don't know where I'm going to be. I might be in Texas. I might be in Arkansas. I'm hoping that I'll actually be able to drive into the New York part of the path, up in Syracuse, or maybe even as far north as Plattsburgh. So we'll see what happens there. And other than that, really no major occurrences this weekend. It was a pretty calm day here today, and looking ahead to this upcoming week, by the way, I believe the only date that we're going to have to change the normal schedule will be on Thursday. I've got another talk to do on Thursday. I think at 6:30, which means the Thursday show may shift by about 25 minutes to 8 o'clock as opposed to 7:35. So
Okay. All right, so why don't we hold off on Briller Jeopardy till tomorrow? Because I'm tired.
okay,
I want to go to bed early. Actually, I got to just give big congratulations to my daughter, my middle daughter, who ran in a marathon today in Atlanta, and this was the Publix, which is the supermarket chain, Publix, marathon, and she had the flu last week. I mean, she was barely. Oh, I mean, she wasn't 100%, and she'd been training for this for months. So she made the decision last night that she was going to do it, and somehow she managed to finish. So I'm really proud of her because that's it was tough. The marathon is tough, but I mean, it's very, very tough. And when you're not physically at 100%, um, I don't know how. Honestly, I don't know how she did it. So, but anyway, I'm just very proud of her because that's quite an achievement.
I think anybody who runs a marathon should get a medal. And I just get tired just thinking about even attempting a marathon, much less running one. So, congratulations to your middle daughter on her recent run.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, everybody. Thanks for being here on this Sunday night. And Joe and I, of course, we will be back tomorrow night at the usual time, 7:35 p.m. The Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this live stream podcast. And if you use the coupon code Winter2324, you will get.
10% off.
All right, so we'll do Briller Jeopardy tomorrow night, and we will see everybody tomorrow. Night, night.
Nighty night, folks.